Hello, everybody. Let everybody get in and let their audios connect. So awesome. Thank you so much for coming back today. I know many of you were on last night, and unfortunately, last night it wasn't Pharmacist Ben, it was tornado captured Ben, as he had some traveling excitement and didn't make it home back in time for Q&A with Pharmacist Ben. So my camera is all funky. That better? There we go. Well, everybody, thank you again for coming. My name is Becca Dukes, and I am honored to be the hostess of Q&A with Pharmacist Ben Fuchs and Becca Dukes. So Pharmacist Ben.
Hi, Becca.
Welcome. I'm glad you made it home safe.
Did you know there were tornadoes? Did I tell you that, or did you know that?
You did tell me, and then I looked it up and I confirmed. So not that I thought you were lying. I was just wondering where they were.
You were confirming. Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a very interesting trip, but I'm back and I'm ready to talk about ketones and the ketogenic diet.
Well, I am so excited because I'm using this call also as part of our Keto 90 Kickstart support group. So for those of you who are interested in weight loss and you're here because you're part of that Keto 90 Kickstart Facebook group, welcome, welcome. Those of you who are just interested in health and love to hear Pharmacist Ben Fuchs and all of his mighty knowledge that he shares with us, we are so glad to have you here as well. And I know tonight's going to be a treat because so many people, Pharmacist Ben, we're at the beginning of the year. They made resolutions to lose weight. They're getting to maybe discouraged because they're not making the progress that they're wanting to make. So I think timing is perfect for this.
Well, ketogenic diet is the ideal way to lose weight. It's the ideal way to lower your blood sugar and to reverse insulin resistance, to improve sensitivity of insulin. It's the ideal diet for brain health and for heart health. And it's just the ideal way to eat. It's the perfect way to eat, the ketogenic diet.
Why?
So why? Because ketones are little nuclear bombs of energy, and they provide the body with with a sustained release energy that doesn't cause burning. Glucose, which is the primary fuel, sugar, which is the primary fuel, burns very hot. You ever had a sugar burn? You know, it burns really. It's a very hot burn. And the body doesn't like hot burns. Body is like any machine. It doesn't like a lot of heat. Like that's why you have a fan in your computer. That's why you have a fan in your engine, in your car. You ever left your iPhone on the front seat of your car when it was really hot? You know, the iPhone turns off. Machinery, especially high-tech machinery, doesn't like a lot of heat. The body obviously is the most high-tech machine we know of, and it doesn't like a lot of heat. In fact, many of the signs, many of the problems associated with diabetes, blindness, kidney disease, amputations, are associated with the burning effect of sugar. The burning effect of sugar is technically called glycation. And most diabetics know that that they have to have a test run every few months called a hemoglobin A1C test. Hemoglobin A1C test, and the hemoglobin A1C test is a test that determines how fast your diabetes is progressing. Well, the hemoglobin A1C test is actually a test that measures how fast your proteins are burning, glycating. The protein that they measure is called hemoglobin, but really it's just a marker of all the proteins in your body. So sugar burns very hot. It's very problematic, and many of the problematic symptoms of diabetes are associated with this glycation reaction. Glycation of the tiny blood vessels in the kidneys, glycation of tiny blood vessels in the eyes, glycation of the tiny blood vessels in the extremities, accounting for amputation, glycation leading to inflammatory problems associated with neuropathies. All these are really problems associated with the fast burning effect of sugar. Ketones have a slower burn. They give the body a lot of energy without the burn. So it's a preferred form of energy for the body. The more you can generate ketones and get your body to derive energy from ketones, the slower your burn. This is especially important for diabetics. It's also involved in weight loss. And most prominently, the ketogenic diet is a diet that's associated with the brain health, with the health of the brain, specifically for seizures. In fact, the ketogenic diet was developed as an anti-seizure diet. It was developed in the 1920s. What happened was medical researchers were very fascinated with the relationship between fasting and reduced seizures. And throughout history, even going back to biblical times, fasting was regarded as a treatment for seizure disorders. Seizure disorders were a really weird thing for people. When they didn't understand biochemistry, all of a sudden the body would convulse, and sometimes people would have strange hallucinogenic delusions when they had seizures. It was a very interesting phenomena. And going back to biblical times and then into the times of the ancient Greeks and the Romans, they noticed that when people fasted, their seizures went away. So quick cut to the early 1900s, medical researchers were interested in what it was about fasting that reduced seizures. And they started to do analysis on people's blood, and they noticed that in the blood, when people fasted, were these molecules that were called ketones. They noticed that there were more ketones in the blood when people fasted, and they began to associate these ketones with reduced incidence of seizures. But they also knew that people didn't want to fast. So they tried to figure out a way to generate ketones, to get the body to generate ketones to reduce seizures without forcing their patients to fast. And thus was born the ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diet was designed as a way to reduce seizures in patients who were getting convulsions, who had epilepsy or seizure disorders, without having the patients fast. And what they realized was when patients went on a ketogenic diet, I'll tell you what that is specifically, their seizures were reduced. And to this day, in the 21st century, the most powerful way to reduce seizures is the ketogenic diet, with the exception of certain high-powered drugs. And the ketogenic diet is used when these high-powered drugs like Dilantin and Tegretol, which are used for seizure disorders, among the most toxic drugs, by the way, in the pharmacy are these anti-seizure medications. It turns out that they don't always work for people. The ketogenic diet is used as an alternative to pharmaceuticals, and pharmaceuticals don't work to this day. So what is it about the ketogenic diet? Well, the ketogenic diet, as I say, is a diet that increases the amount of ketones that the brain and the cells of the body will have available for burning. That makes it very, very important for energy generation. So instead of getting energy from glucose, you can get energy from ketones. This is why it's such an important anti-diabetic diet, and, as well as an anti-seizure diet, and also as a weight loss diet. So the ketogenic diet generates ketones through two major dietary strategies. The first dietary strategy most people know, and that's high fat. In fact, the ketogenic diet is about an 80% fat diet, 80% of your calories coming from fat. And then the rest coming from protein and then a little bit of carbohydrates. The trick to the ketogenic diet is the combination of high fat and low carb. Under conditions of low sugar and high fat, the body will shift into fat burning. And this is where ketones are generated, from burning fat. So you have to have this combination of high fat in combination with low sugar. If you have high fat and high sugar, it's not going to work. And that's the way most of us eat, is high fat and high sugar. Under conditions of high fat and high sugar, the body will go into burning glucose, because it's an easier way for the body to generate energies from sugar. So if you have high fat and high sugar, it's not going to work. The body will go into burning from sugar and it will store the fat. So it's not going to work. You have to have low sugar and high fat. The second critical dietary strategy to make the ketogenic diet work, to make ketones, is the one nobody wants to talk about. And that is the ketogenic diet, which is a fasting diet, is a very low calorie diet. So it's not just high fat. Most people, when they hear the ketogenic diet, they think, oh, wow, I can eat all the ketones. I can eat all the fat I want. I can eat the bacon and the cheese and all the fatty foods, because they hear high fat. But that's not the key to the ketogenic diet. The key to the ketogenic diet is a combination of high fat, low carb, and low calories, about 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day. So yes, it's a high percentage of those calories should be from fat, but you don't want to be eating a lot of fat. You want to be eating a high percentage of your calories. That makes sense? So the percentage of your calories has to come from fat. A high percentage of your calories has to come from fat, but overall, you need very low calories. And that's what it takes to make the ketogenic diet work. But boy, oh boy, does it work. In fact, fasting in general is a really interesting strategy. People would think, well, if I fast, I'm not going to have energy. Well, that's not true, because when you fast, you make ketones. The less calories you put in your body, even going down to fasting 0 calories, the more ketones your body can make. Ketones represent a way that the body handles starvation states. Our bodies learned to adapt to very low calorie states because back in the days, as our body was evolving on the African savannah, hundreds of thousands and millions of years ago, our bodies learned to adapt to the low calorie state that most of our early ancestors had to endure because there wasn't a lot of food, by generating ketones. Turns out that when you fast and you generate ketones, you actually feel better. Not only is the ketogenic diet important for brain health when it comes to seizures, it's also important for just making your brain work better. It's a great diet for people who have dementia or people who have memory problems. It's a great diet for everything. In fact, there's nothing, there's no health marker that will not improve from being on the ketogenic diet. It's important to recognize that, and a lot of physicians don't recognize this, and a lot of people don't recognize this, that ketogenesis, the generation of ketones, that is not the same as ketoacidosis. Ketoacidosis is a condition that diabetics run into when their blood sugar is whacked out, when they're generating massive amount of ketones. That's not a good thing. But the ketogenic diet, which generates ketones in a very slow, sustained fashion, is great for all markers of health, including weight loss. And it's an ideal way to lose weight. Partially, it's the ketones that are generated, but it's also the low calories, the low calorie diet that the ketogenic diet represents. When you're on the ketogenic diet, there's a couple of things that you might want to consider. Number one, caffeine actually will improve ketogenesis. So if you're on the ketogenic diet, drinking a little coffee or even using a bulletproof coffee, which has a little fat in it with the coffee, that can help you generate ketones. Also, when you're eating a lot, when you get a large percentage of your calories from fat, there's an amino acid called carnitine, which is very important for helping ketones, allowing ketones to be used by cells without getting into too much biochemistry. The amino acid carnitine is important. Also, when you're ingesting a lot of fat, vitamin E is very important because vitamin E protects fats, has a fat protecting effect. Niacin, vitamin B3, the ultimate niacin, which is an amazing product for fat burning in general, also is important when you're when you're ingesting a lot of fats. There's a type of fat called MCT, which some of you may have heard of. MCT stands for medium chain triglycerides. Medium chain triglycerides are ketogenic, and it's very easy for the body to turn MCTs into ketones. And that's why coconut oil is considered to be one of the most important foods for the ketogenic diet. Now, I'm aware that coconut oil, is on the bad food list, or people who don't. Dr. Wallach doesn't like people to use coconut oil, but it turns out that coconut oil is very ketogenic. Mostly because of the MCTs it contains. Coconut oil is up to 60% MCTs, and it's actually nature's best source of MCTs. You can also get MCTs straight. You can buy them straight at the health food store. And also Youngevity's, one of my favorite Youngevity products actually is I think it's called the Keto Shake. They had the old name was what was the old name? Slim Fit or Slim Fast or something. I forgot what they called it. But now it's called the Keto Shake. And that's an excellent tool for the ketogenic diet. In fact, everybody in the ketogenic diet should be using this shake. And I forget what it's called. Rebecca, help me out. What it's called?
It's the True Keto Shake.
That's right. The True Keto Shake. And that also contains MCTs. If you don't want to do coconut oil, you can get MCTs, as I say, straight, or you can use butter as a source of MCTs. In fact, butter also is a precursor to the main ketone. There are 3 ketones. when we talk about ketogenesis, there's 3 ketones. The main ketone is a derivative of something called butyrate. Butyrate is one of the major fats in butter, hence the name butter. Actually, butter comes from this fat called butyrate, and butyrate, which is a ketone, or it's turned into a ketone, is an incredible nutritional supplement for a lot of reasons. If you've ever heard of GABA, which is used to help people sleep and relax, and GABA also has anti-seizure properties. GABA is a form of butyrate, which is like this ketone. GABA is also a drug that they use for seizures, interestingly, called Lyrica, or sometimes people call it by the generic name pregabalin. Pregabalin is a drug version of GABA, which itself is a butyrate or butyric acid. Butyrate is also extremely important for the digestive tract, the intestine, and butyrate's been used to prevent as a preventative for colon cancer. And butyrate also improves satiety, which is satisfaction. That is a sense that you're full and you don't want to eat anymore. Butyrate's very important for telling the brain, for hitting the brain's shutoff appetite suppressant chemistry. And it turns out that butyrate, which is part of the appetite suppressant chemistry, is also a mood enhancer. So butyrate, which is turned into a ketone found in butter, is really, it has wonderful health benefits for everything from the intestine to the brain to weight loss. And the more butyrate you can make have your body make through ketogenesis, the less you're going to want to eat, and that has some really interesting weight loss benefits there. If you may have heard of a drug called GHB. That's an illegal drug now. It wasn't illegal in the 90s. It became illegal about 20 years ago. Did you ever hear I don't know if you ever heard of GHB. GHB made people fall asleep really fast, and it was used by bodybuilders and weightlifters because it helped build muscle. GHB is gamma hydroxybutyrate, which itself is a derivative of this butyric acid that's found in butter and that generates ketones. It's now illegal because it worked so well as a sleep aid and as a bodybuilding supplement that people were overdosing on this stuff, this GHB stuff. So now it's illegal. But again, that's a form of butyrate. Bodybuilders will also use another form of butyrate called HMB, hydroxymethylbutyrate. So this butyrate stuff is awesome. Its production is encouraged by the ketogenic diet, or you can also eat it in foods like butter and eggs and dairy. In fact, butter and eggs and dairy are probably your most important ketogenic foods. If you want to eat ketogenically, butter and dairy and eggs are the best ketogenic foods in addition to coconut oil. If you are going to do the ketogenic diet, it's really important to make sure you're using the mighty 90 essential nutrients, because low-calorie diets can sometimes be deficient in certain nutrients depending on the kind of foods you choose. So it's really important to support the ketogenic diet with the mighty 90 essential nutrients. Let's see what else. I want to tell you about the ketogenic diet here. The ketogenic diet is also beneficial for the liver and also for the digestive tract, for the liver, and also for bile secretion. But you got to be a little bit careful, because if you're eating a lot of fats and you have issues with bile or issues with the liver, you may put a little bit of added stress on the bile system and on the liver system. Thus, the importance of the ultimate enzymes, which can, as Dr. Wallach likes to call it, is a gallbladder in a bottle, which it essentially is, because it contains bile salts as well as lecithin and a few other enzymes that are important for fat metabolism. So if you are going to go ketogenic, you can support ketogenesis and you can support the body's ability to process fats with the ultimate enzymes, as well as something acidifying in the stomach, something that acidifies the stomach content, something like apple cider vinegar or noni juice. Those can be helpful for acidifying the digestive tract. Let's see what else I want to tell you here about the ketogenic diet. Ketogenesis is really, to this day, we don't really know how the ketogenic diet works to protect the nerves and protect the brain nerves, or nerve cells in the brain. But it does have a protective effect on nerve cells in the brain, and it also has a anti-diabetic effect by sensitizing insulin, as I mentioned earlier. You can also sensitize insulin, by the way, with some of these nutrients like niacin and carnitine that help the body utilize fats. Also, the ultimate EFAs can be very helpful when you're on the ketogenic diet. The ultimate EFAs, of course, are essential fatty acids. They have a small amount of calories, but they don't have a lot of calories. And that can also be helpful for the ketogenic diet. Thyroid hormone is also important for ketogenesis, as is cortisol and adrenaline or epinephrine. So interestingly, stress hormone, both adrenaline and epinephrine, as well as cortisol, can have a pro-ketogenic effect, and thyroid hormone can have a ketogenic effect. This is important because there's a lot of people who are hypothyroid or cortisol resistant, and cortisol resistance occurs when you're secreting a lot of cortisol. The body will stop listening to cortisol. If you're hypothyroid, in addition to cortisol resistant, you may not get the same wonderful benefits from the ketogenic diet that healthier folks will. That's something else to keep in mind if you're hypothyroid, and a lot of folks are, or if you're cortisol resistant because you're secreting a lot of cortisol, you may not get the same kind of benefits from the ketogenic diet that your colleagues might. So that's the ketogenic diet. Keep in mind that you want to make sure that you're doing low calorie. That's the most important thing, because the ketogenic diet is a fasting diet.
Wow. Did you guys write fast? So I took a few notes for those of you who are on with us. If you open up the chat, you will see the notes that have been shared in the meeting chat, and went through and spelled some of the things that Ben was talking about, so you know how to spell it when you go looking it up. But Ben, there was something that you had mentioned, and let me read this before I forget. Thank you, Ruth Ellen. The content of this program is to provide nutritional education information only. This program is not meant to take the place of your primary care physician. The FDA does require us to let you know that our products are not meant to treat, prevent, diagnose, or cure any diseases. As an empowered individual, you do have options available, and that's what we're sharing with you today via the amazing Pharmacist Ben Fuchs. So Ben, as you were going through, and you had mentioned that some of the main foods that are so beneficial in a ketogenic diet are butter, eggs, and dairy.
Yes.
Now, I had a conversation with somebody earlier this morning, and I think they're actually on with us in regards to dairy. Yes. And having it as good food, because there are some people that
yes
get lots of phlegm and buildup and mucus. And
dairy is a high protein food. It's an animal, a food that initiates immune responses. So it can be a problem for a lot of people, and it's not really a great food. But butter if ordinary dairy is not a great food, butter is a great food. Also, raw dairy can be very helpful. Dairy that has not been homogenized or pasteurized. Now, you have to be careful, of course, if it's not pasteurized or homogenized because everything likes milk. Milk feeds life. And that's really the problem, because the body is designed, the immune system is designed to look for enemies. And because milk is basically comes from another animal, it's a growth substance for another animal, it can trigger immune responses. Breast milk doesn't do that. Breast milk doesn't trigger immune responses. Cow's milk does, because cows are another animal, and the proteins that are in cow's milk can make the body think that there's an enemy that has gotten into the system, and it can trigger an immune response in some people and cause, like you say, phlegm or inflammation or skin problems or digestive issues like bloating and that kind of thing. And that can be a problem. So dairy and eggs are the same way. Eggs also can be a problem for folks. And it's unfortunate, because both eggs and dairy are really very nutrient dense foods, but that's the way nature is. Nature is always looking for enemies that have gotten into the system. Our body's immune system is always scouting for enemies that have gotten into the system. And because the proteins in milk and the proteins in egg represent another life form, essentially, it can trigger an immune response. So you do have to be a little bit careful. Butter doesn't do that. Very few people will have an allergic reaction to butter. And as I say, butter is a really rich source of ketogenic fats, specifically butyrate. So enjoy that butter. Dr. Wallach talks about eating like multiple sticks a day, I think. And that's a lot. That's a lot. I don't know if I would do that, but But his point is that butter is actually a very, very powerful nutritional food. And hopefully in the year 2023, nobody is eating margarine. You know, when I was growing up in the 70s, the 60s and 70s, margarine was the thing, even up until the 80s or 90s. Even up to recently, people were eating fake butter because they were under the impression that the cholesterol in butter was a problem, which it's not, of course, as you all know on this call. Cholesterol is a very, very vital substance. So people were going to margarine. Now, more and more folks are understanding that synthetic margarine, which is really a terrible food, is nowhere near the nutritional value. And it's not even just margarine. Now they have butter spreads. They don't even call it margarine. They call them butter spreads or spread butter-like spreads. I don't even know what they call them. Those are terrible foods. And butter is about as natural and as raw as you can get. And everybody loves the taste of butter, of course, too. Plus, it's wonderfully ketogenic.
So Karen is asking, what about sheep or goat milk?
Sheep or goat milk in particular tends to be closer in profile to human milk. So that would be the way to go, is goat milk. Sheep is a little closer to human milk too. So sheep and goat are definitely better choices than cow's milk. Although, as I say, if you don't have a problem with cow's milk, it's a very nutrient dense food. Just you don't want it homogenized and pasteurized. Homogenization is a process where fat globules are crushed up very small so they become uniform in the milk. Back in the old days, and I don't remember this, it's before my time, maybe somebody on the call remembers this, the cream would rise to the top and you'd have to shake the milk. Do you remember that, Rebecca? You're laughing.
I do remember that, but it's because we milked our own cows and we loved scraping the cream.
Yeah, so they would separate. Well, then somewhere in the 1950s or late 50s, they figured out if they crushed the fat particles small enough, it would homogenize. It would become uniform in the milk, and eventually it would separate out. And when milk gets old, it still separates, but it would last longer. The problem is when you crush up those particles, they become very small and they can cross from the intestine into the blood, and they can get into the blood and they can disturb the blood fat profile. And so that's a problem with homogenized milk. And then pasteurization, which is important for keeping the milk clean, because as I say, everything likes milk. Bacteria love milk. Pasteurization is important for keeping the milk clean, but it also kills the enzymes and it destroys a lot of the proteins. So pasteurization devalues what should be a very, can you hear me? I don't know why I'm on. Just ask me to join again. Pasteurization destroys a lot of the nutritional value of milk, particularly the enzymes and the proteins. So raw milk is the way to go if you're going to drink milk, but a lot of states don't allow milk to be sold raw, or you have to go right to the farm, and there's all kinds of legalities that are associated with that, but that's the best way to drink your milk. Milk is a very problematic food because industrial milk, that is because cows don't want to be milked. Milking a cow is a very stressful thing for a cow. And milking a cow, especially industrially, doesn't even happen with hands. It happens with machines. And it happens with cows kept in, I mean, you know this, Rebecca, the cows are kept in pens and they're milked twice a day. I mean, would you want to be milked twice a day? Can you imagine the stress that does on a cow? It puts on a cow. Not only that, but the udders develop infections. In fact, every state, all 50 states, have dairy bureaus that regulate the dairy, and the dairy bureaus have something called a pus count. Have you ever heard of the pus count? The pus count is the amount of pus cells that are allowed in your milk, because when cows' udders are milked, they develop infections, a condition called mastitis, and the pus can leak into the milk. So there's legal amounts of pus that are allowed in your milk. There's legitimate legal amounts. I mean, everybody's drinking pus, basically. That white thing on your mouth, after you drink the milk, that's a pus stash. So milk is a problem, but at the same time, it's also very, very nutritionally dense. It's a source of MCTs, and it has some ketogenic properties or ketogenic qualities. So do raw milk if you want to do milk. Do goat's milk. I wouldn't drink the milk that you get in the supermarket. That's definitely not a health food. But raw milk can be for folks if they can tolerate milk. And then also, as somebody pointed out, goat's milk and sheep milk are a little closer in nutritional profile to human milk. Breast milk is the best milk there is. Human breast milk.
So thank you so much for that. So I was wondering if you were going to get to that pus count, because
Yeah. Did you know about
that's
that
great.
from your milk days?
Yeah, well, 4-H, and
Yeah. Did they tell you about that?
yeah, we learned about that in 4-H years
Yes.
ago.
That
The
alone, I mean, that should freak people out who are drinking milk. And by the way,
well,
almond milk, almond milk and nut milks, if you will, don't have anywhere near the nutritional value of animal milks because they're not milk. Milk is technically a food that makes a mammal grow. Almonds are not mammals, and there's no little baby almonds that need to grow to become big almonds. So almond milk is called milk, and hazelnut milk and cashew milk and oat milk now they have. Those are most definitely not milk, and they're also highly processed foods, and they contain these nasty oils. These oils, by the way, that Dr. Wallach's always talking about, uh, and that they're so problematic to health, are processed oils. It's not the unprocessed oils that are so dangerous and problematic. It's the processed oils, the oils that are heated, and the oils that are treated in factories. And oat milk and some of these grain milks that you see now, those have lots of these processed oils, and they can be very problematic. Almond milk, if you get fresh almond or you get organic almond milk, there's the stuff that comes in a box. That's basically just almonds and water. And while it's not really a great nutritional value, it is tasty, and it's a nice alternative to people who don't want to drink animal milk. But you're not going to get anywhere near the nutritional value that you do from regular milk.
so
From
you
real
can
milk.
leave those nut milks at the store.
Say again.
So they can leave the nut milks at the store unless they just don't want to drink water, right?
Yeah, there's nut milks that are not a problem. There's some almond milks that are just almonds and water, and those aren't
Mhm.
necessarily a problem. Although a case could be made that in crushing up the almonds, you destroy the oils, or you distort the oils at least, and they may be a problem. We don't know that. But the creaminess of a nut milk is due to the oils. That's what makes it milk-like. It should be called milk-like. It's not really a milk. It's milk-like. And what makes it milk-like is, and just like what makes milk milk, is the fat content. We think we like milk, but if there's no fat in it, you wouldn't like milk very much. A lot of the foods we think we like cheese and dairy and butter and milk and hamburgers, we like because of the fat. If you had a hamburger that didn't have any fat, it wouldn't taste very good. If you had milk that didn't have any fat, even skim milk has some fat in it. So even all milk products have fat, and that's really what we like. We like fat. That's why going zero fat doesn't work. Going no fat doesn't work. You're not going to be healthy if you go no fat or even low fat. That's a really critical nutrient.
Well, Sue has a question in regards to butter. So
Yes.
she said she's able to eat butter fat before 2 p.m. And if she goes beyond that, she can't sleep. So what would be helpful for her in digesting all the fats?
Say if she eats butter late, she can't sleep. Is that what I heard you say?
That's what she's saying. And you were saying that butter is a feel good, right?
Butter makes you feel good, but has relaxing feel good qualities, not energizing feel good qualities. Remember,
Okay.
butyrate, butyric acid, butyrate, whatever you want to call it, which is the fat in butter, which is a ketogenic fat and part of one of the main. There's 3 ketones, and the main ketone is a derivative of butyrate. Has relaxing effects, sleep-inducing effects. So I've never heard of somebody having excess energy from butter. The opposite should be true based on its chemistry. So I don't know what that would be. I've never heard that. I don't even know a mechanism for that. Butter, by the way, is also a great source of iodine and also selenium. So it's really, really got powerful nutritional value, and it's a wonderful food, and everybody loves the taste of it. I hadn't heard, and I don't really know a mechanism for it causing energy or causing sleep problems.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, Sue. I don't have an answer for you.
I don't know
But
that.
enzymes help to process fats.
Ghee, somebody's asking about ghee. Something just popped up about ghee. Ghee is awesome. Ghee is really, really wonderful. It's technically clarified butter, and some of the proteins are removed, and it's very tasty. It's a really wonderful form of butter.
Yeah, I really like ghee as well. We have lots of questions, so I'm going through here to see if there's any additional that relate to what we are talking about tonight. And Bobby's wanting to know, how many eggs can you eat per day on a keto
As
plan?
many as you want. There's really there's no downside to eggs. I mean, you could eat 100 eggs, I suppose, but that's kind of ridiculous. But you can, Doc eats like 6 eggs a day, three to 6 eggs a day. But there's no reason not to eat eggs. But you get kind of sick of them if you ate a bunch, 12 eggs or something. But there's no real reason not to. There's a couple problems with eggs though that should be addressed. One is the cooking of eggs. So we all like our eggs scrambled or even hard boiled, but the fats in eggs are very, very fragile. And as we've said before, cooking a fat destroys it. Also, the cholesterol in eggs is very fragile. And while cholesterol itself is not a problem, oxidized cholesterol can be a problem. And cholesterol oxidation, or oxycholesterol, is increased to the degree that you're cooking. So the best way to do your eggs is raw. And the next best way is soft boiled or poached. But the worst thing you could do is really cook the heck out of eggs, because you're going to destroy a lot of the nutritional value. You're going to destroy the proteins. You're going to destroy the enzymes. You're probably going to destroy a lot of the vitamins, and you'll definitely distort the fats. So eggs can be a problem, as nutritionally wonderful they are, and they're nature's perfect food. They are the perfect food. In essence, they're like a nutritional supplement for your body, because an egg, as I've said before, you guys have heard me say this, an egg is an egg cell. It's not an egg. We call it an egg, but it's really an egg cell. If you're eating a cell, and that means you're eating everything that's in the cell. You're giving your body the perfect cell nutrient, the perfect cell supplement. So it is the perfect food. To the degree you cook it, you lose a lot of that nutritional value. And eggs, by the way, are a great food for your joints and for your skin by virtue of their collagen content, particularly in the membrane of the egg. The outside part of the egg, the membrane of the egg, is a wonderful way to build your connective tissue, not just with collagen, but also has glucosamine. It has hyaluronic acid. It's just a great way to build connective tissue, especially if folks are now, everybody's hip to collagen. An egg is a wonderful collagen supplement, straight collagen.
So how would you eat the membrane of an egg? I know when I crack my eggs.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky. If you eat the egg raw, or if you crack an egg raw, the membrane is on the shell part, and you can kind of peel it off. There's one way to do it, or you can just crush it up. You can crush up the whole egg shell, and you'll have the membrane in there. An eggshell membrane with eggshell. The eggshell itself is a source of calcium and magnesium and other minerals, and then you'll get the collagen in there as well. If you cook an egg, like you put the whole egg in a poacher, or a soft boil the egg with the whole egg, the membrane is easier to peel out. But if you eat the egg raw, you can just crush up the whole shell. Wow. You know what else is a great source of these of glucosamine and connective tissue building supplements is shrimp shells. That's just a kind of aside. If you save your shrimp shells, you can actually crush them up, and it makes a wonderful connective tissue building supplement. Or keep them in the freezer and crush them up, and it turns into a powder that's wonderful for building your connective tissue. Same with the eggshells.
Interesting. I know my dogs love them. I never thought about eating them myself.
Your dogs love what?
The shells for shrimp.
Yeah, they probably intuitively know that they're important. That it's important. Eggs are especially important for the skin. And I've been doing skin, as some of you may know, for many years. Eggs are the ideal skin food, not just because of all the connective tissue building stuff for wrinkles, but for moisturizing the skin. Eggs contain lots of natural skin moisturizers and molecules that the skin can convert into its own natural moisturizers. So as if eggs weren't as wonderful enough, now eggs become a great food for skin health, for dry skin.
Now, Bob is asking a question. He says, are duck eggs better because they are alkaline?
No, that's not really a thing. Alkaline in eggs. I don't think eggs are alkaline. I would think eggs are acid. They've got a lot of acids in them. I'm not sure if eggs are an alkaline food. They may be alkaline for you. It's important to consider the difference between alkaline and alkaline forming. Some foods are alkaline forming. It doesn't really matter whether a food is alkaline, because when you eat a food, it goes into your stomach. What do you think is going to happen? Your stomach's pure acid. There's hydrochloric acid. There's no food that's going to leave your stomach alkaline, no matter what you hear. Once it's in the stomach, it becomes acid. That's how your digestive process works. But there are foods that are alkaline forming, like lemons, for example. Minerals in lemons, or even apple cider vinegar, those are acid foods, but they can contribute minerals which can have an alkalizing effect on the blood. That being said, the main way to alkalize your blood is not foods, it's through breathing. And breathing is the single most important, even more important than nutritional supplementation, is breathing. I mean, you can go, 40 days without food. You can go 4 days without water, but you can't go 4 minutes without oxygen. And many of us aren't breathing correctly. Breathing is so underappreciated. Breathing correctly. For people who feel tired in the middle of the day, tired when they wake up, who don't have a lot of energy, a lot of that is because they're acid. And real quickly, when we talk about acid and alkaline, mainly we're talking about the blood. The blood has to be alkaline. Alkaline contributes electrical energy. Acid steals electrical energy. So when your blood is alkaline, it has more electricity, more electrons, more electrical energy. So the blood has to be alkaline. In fact, there are many mechanisms, chemistry mechanisms, that keep the blood alkaline. The body needs the blood alkaline. And when I say it needs the blood alkaline, I mean specifically pH of 7.38. This pH scale goes from 0 to 14. You guys probably know that. 7 is the middle. And to the right of 7, between 7 and 14, that's alkaline. The blood is just slightly alkaline, about 7.38, not about, exactly 7.38. If it becomes acid, we don't feel good. We get brain fog and we get tired and we're more prone towards diseases and we're more inflammatory. So acidity in the blood is a really big problem. And the fastest way to alkalinize the blood is not food, it's breathing. And you can increase your breathing, you can raise your blood pH by doing a special kind of breathing that involves deep breathing in combination with breath holding. It's called, you may have heard of Wim Hoff. Some of you guys may have heard of Wim Hoff. Wim Hoff is all over the internet these days. And he has a special kind of breathing that takes you into what's called alkalosis, which is when you become more alkaline. You don't want to be in alkalosis for long periods of time. But if you're running acid, if you're tired in the middle of the day, it's a classic example of running acidic, you can get incredible energy just by doing these breathing techniques that increase the pH of your blood, put you in a condition called alkalosis. And breathing is the best way to raise your pH. You're not going to make your blood alkaline with foods, although some foods can contribute minerals which may have a alkalinizing effect, but not really dramatic one. The main way, the fastest way to make your blood alkaline, to increase alkalinity, is breathing.
Will you do a breathing session with us?
Right now?
Right now.
Okay, I'll do a quick one with you.
You just how to do it. Okay, everybody, are you ready? You ready to breathe?
Okay, let me just show you how you breathe. When you're doing a breathing technique for oxygen, usually you want to breathe through your nose. But when you're doing a breathing technique to get oxygen quickly, like for alkalinizing, you want to breathe in and out through your mouth. You get more oxygen through your mouth. Ordinarily, you want to breathe through your nose. I want to be very clear about that. You have filters in your nose, and you also have nerves in the top of the bridge of your nose that increase the production of something called nitric oxide, which has a wonderful vasodilating effect and healing effect. So ordinarily you want to breathe through the mouth, but for quick oxygen, for alkalinizing, ordinarily you want to breathe through the nose, but for quick oxygenating, you want to breathe through the mouth, breathe in and out through the mouth. So you go like this, like that, but you do it 30 times, like this. And I'm just going to show you, I'll just tell you and then I'll show you, but you do this with some rapidity, about 30 times. You might find yourself feeling a little woozy. That's not a problem. You do about 30 times. And then at the end, you hold your breath for 1.5 minutes. And that breath hold is really important. During that breath hold, you're actually driving in oxygen and you're also increasing growth hormone. It has a wonderful anti-aging effect. So breath holding is very important. And you'll find that if you're acidotic, it may be harder for you to hold your breath. So over time, you'll find that you can hold your breath longer and longer. So first you want to see if you can hold your breath for 1 minute, if you can do it. And then you breathe, when you're done, you breathe out and you hold your breath for 15 seconds. And then you start again. So you go 30 times, hold your breath for a minute if you can. It's good to have a timer. I can do up to 2 minutes now. Hold your breath and then hold your breath again for about 15 seconds. And then you start again like that. It's called Wim Hof breathing. You can get it on the internet. It's a really cool thing. And you get, the cool thing about it is you get great energy. I do it multiple times a day and you get wonderful energy. You can go on YouTube and just Google Wim Hof breathing or Wim Hof breathing exercises. And there's a lot of different breathing exercises. I like this one. I noticed a lot of benefits from it.
Interesting. All right, folks, if you get nothing out of this, Wim Hof, did I say that right?
Yes, Wim, W-I-M, Hoff, H-O-F-F.
So
yeah, it's great for folks who feel like they need a nap in the middle of the day, or they need to have a little coffee, hit a coffee in the middle of the day. I used to take naps all the time, but when I started doing this, somebody's nodding their head over there. Did you ever do it, Heather? Is Heather nodding her head?
I think she's nodding her head for
I'm
the
thinking
nap.
we need this because middle of the day we're dropping and we're like, we gotta have a nap for 15 minutes.
It's acid. Acid is a waste product. And so the more acid your body is secreting, the more waste it's secreting, the more it's going to want to go to sleep so it can recover. When we move, it's like when you lift weights. If you lift weights, you're going to feel acid. Now, that being said, acid, in addition to being a waste substance and triggering fatigue and also disease and sickness, also triggers growth. The body is set up so that when it is producing lots of waste, that says to the body, hey, you better get stronger so you can handle all these stresses that the body is being supported with. So acid actually acts like a growth-inducing substance if it's done correctly. That's why when you're lifting weights, you lift weights to where you feel the burn. That lactic acid tells the muscles to grow. And it actually turns out that if you're producing lactic acid without overloading the body with lactic acid, because that's not a good thing, it actually has a growth-inducing effect. So acid has, like a lot of things in the body turns bad things into good things. So the excess waste that acid represents signals to the body, it better get bigger and stronger so it can handle more of these stresses. But if there's too much of it, it can be overwhelming to the body. And that's really one of the reasons why we get sick and why we feel tired and why we don't function as well as we should, is because our blood pH is dropping. So the fastest way to raise it is breathing. You can feel it in one breathing session. You'll notice it in one breathing session. If you do it correctly and you go into what's called respiratory alkalosis, which is, if respiratory alkalosis occurs in an emergency setting or real dramatically, that can be a health issue. That can be a problem.
Well, would that be related to hyperventilating?
Yes, exactly. When you hyperventilate, you're not getting enough oxygen and you're blowing off carbon dioxide, which is acidic. So you become alkalotic. I think that's the right way of saying it. So yes, hyperventilating will do it. And that's one of the reasons why you're actually doing a hyperventilating thing when you do the Wim Hof breathing, but you're holding your breath, and that breath hold drives the oxygen into your cells. And that's one of the reasons why you feel better, is through the breath holding. So that's really important. That kind of helps balance out the hyperventilation.
All right. Thank you so much. Boy, this is like education. I love it. I love being a sponge. I know I have so many people that emailed whenever we did the announcement. They were bummed because we had to reschedule. And some people were like, they were excited because they couldn't make it last night, but they could make it tonight. And thank you to all 70 of the people that are on with us tonight. That's absolutely fantastic. The replay for this is going to be on criticalhealthnews.com, but I think we're going to be getting it on a new website. I'm excited to be able to announce a new website next week where it's going to have all of Ben's stuff located and categorized, and we're going to have it nice little topics written out. So whenever you do a search, you get us. So I'm super excited for that. Now, Ben, we have some other questions. We have just a few more minutes here. We've got two people that are asking questions in regards to thyroid and being put on thyroid medications
Okay. What's the question?
and hypothyroidism.
Hypothyroid is a huge problem. You cannot treat hypothyroidism with thyroid hormone, period. And in pharmacy, we know that thyroid hormone is the trickiest. And by the way, thyroid hormone every year is among the top 5 best-selling drugs in the country. Is thyroid hormone. It's a huge problem. Thyroid hormone is notoriously, pharmacists all know that thyroid hormone is notoriously difficult to dose, and people need more and they need less, and they always have to have their doses changed because the thyroid is responsive to the environment. It's watching the environment and it's going up and down depending on the environment, both outside the body and inside the body. So you have to change the environment to change the thyroid. Thyroid hormone or thyroid medicine is thyroid hormone. And because they can't do anything for the thyroid by itself, they give people thyroid hormone to replace the thyroid hormone that they're not getting from the gland. The problem is thyroid hormone is supposed to be secreted with logic to it, like based on the environment, either the inside environment, the amount of sugar you're eating, the amount of fat you're eating, the amount of nutrients you're getting, the amount of oxygen you're breathing, and the outside environment, the amount of stress you're under. So all the things you have to do, if you have to run or if you have to perform, whatever you have to do, thyroid is supposed to be flex. It's supposed to be responsive. With thyroid hormone, there's no responsiveness. You're just giving the body thyroid hormone. But the thyroid hormone they give you is the weak version of thyroid hormone. So even that doesn't work very well. And when you get your thyroid hormone, you're not doing anything for your thyroid. The problem isn't the thyroid hormone. The problem is the thyroid that's not making the thyroid hormone. So the drugs do not affect the thyroid. That's really, really important for people to understand. Thyroid hormone, Synthroid, Levothyroid, Cytomel, whatever you call it, or the brand name, or levothyroxine, if it's generic, does not affect the thyroid. Your thyroid is still messed up. So there's 2 reasons why people's thyroid, the question is then why is your thyroid messed up? How do we fix that? So there's 2 things that happen here. Number 1, Hashimoto's thyroiditis is an autoimmune issue where the thyroid is attacked by the immune system. All autoimmune issues should be considered to be digestive issues, all of them. And I could tell you all the reasons why that is, why foods trigger inflammatory responses, and foods have molecules that look like various parts of the body, and the immune system is triggered. And there's all these reasons, but all you got to do is read the Walls protocol. Dr. Terry Walls, I talked about this before. She cured herself of multiple sclerosis by fasting, by controlling what she ate, by getting off of gluten and other triggers, lectins and other triggers. And anybody who has an autoimmune disease should pay very close attention to their symptoms in association with what they're eating. And you'll find a dramatic correlation between specific foods and autoimmune symptoms. And this is very important because according to physicians, there's no cure for autoimmunity. You're just stuck with it the rest of your life. This is the distinction that we don't, this is based on a distinction that we don't make between clinical chemistry and biochemistry. Biochemistry is the chemistry of your biology. Clinical chemistry is the chemistry of test scores and the chemistry of statistics. And our medical representatives use clinical chemistry. They don't know biochemistry. They're not bad people. They just don't work with biochemistry. They work with clinical chemistry. So they want to know what the statistics say, or what the surveys say, or what the studies say. They don't pay attention to the biochemistry. If you understand the biochemistry, or if you understand what it said from a biochemical perspective, you understand autoimmunity. You eat a food, it goes into your system, it triggers an immune response. Something has to get into the body to trigger an immune response. Now, you say, what about injecting? Yes, when you inject things, you can trigger an immune response. And I have a textbook that's about 500 pages long. It's an official textbook called, I don't know, you may be able to see it here somewhere, called Vaccines and Autoimmunity. Because it's a well-known fact that when you inject something in your skin, you can have an autoimmune, into your blood through your skin, you can have an autoimmune reaction. Autoimmune reactions require autoimmune triggers. And you don't have an immune reaction without a trigger. That's how the immune system works. It sees the bad guy, it attacks it. So the question is, how does the bad guy get into the body? well, you can inject it, and that's true, but most of it from food. It's just biochemistry. It's just logic. There's nothing difficult to understand. So one of the main causes of hypothyroidism is called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. It's an autoimmune disease of the thyroid. Lay off of the problem foods, and there's lots of them. And the list is really just go by your specific reactions when your symptoms trigger. And then the second thing is when we're spiking cortisol, when we're making lots of stress hormone, and our body is running on what I call coffee energy, eventually the thyroid will slow down to compensate. So reducing cortisol is another important strategy, and that of course is relaxation. There's another hormone that has some cortisol-like effects, and that's estrogen. And problems with estrogen metabolism. In fact, why don't we talk about estrogen in our next talk, in our next Q&A, because it's a huge issue. Estrogen is highly misunderstood, and it's a very big problem. Do you know 90% of people who have autoimmune diseases are women? 90% of people who have hypothyroidism are women. 90% of people who have depression are women. All of these are estrogen problems associated with the hormone estrogen. And this is what we're going to talk about next time. Estrogen is not just one thing. It's a bunch of things. There's zillions of estrogens in the environment. It's a very common chemical, and it's very active, and the body has to clear it out immediately. It's so active, you make it and it's gone. But unfortunately, the body breaks down estrogen in 2 steps. The first step creates one, and this happens with a lot of toxins, by the way. The first step requires a second step for elimination. If you're not doing the second step, and many people aren't, the first step, estrogen builds up, and that's called superestrogen. And superestrogen is responsible for breast cancer, reproductive cancers in general, fibromyalgia, fertility problems, depression, weight gain, anxiety, hot flashes. Guess what? The classic sign of problems with your estrogen are called collectively menopause. And all the yuckiness associated with menopause is related to problems with estrogen. And you can have menopausal symptoms when you're young. You can have the anxiety, the weight gain, the sleeplessness, the depression, even the hot flashes when you're young if you have problems with estrogen. I ran into a gal, I was in Mexico for a couple of days doing business. I ran into a gal this week, a couple of days ago, and she says to me, she's 31 years old, she says to me, I have Lyme disease, and I have chronic Lyme disease, and they can't fix it. They don't know how to fix it. And I've been on antibiotics, and nothing's helping, and she has an Instagram page, My Life with Lyme, and she's a leader in the chronic Lyme disease support group, and she's all about the Lyme disease. So I'm talking to her. I said, so tell me about some of your symptoms. She says, oh, I got lots of pigmentation on my skin. Oh, yeah? Oh, my body is I can't move my muscles. I can't even wash my hair. Everything I do hurts. I can't have anybody touch me. Oh, really? Oh, and I tried to have a baby 3 times. I finally had a baby 3 times. Oh, when did you notice these Lyme disease symptoms? Oh, it was right after I had my baby. Oh, really? And then I said to her, how's your digestion? Or how's your menstrual cycle? Oh, my menstrual cycles are terrible. I said, okay, how's your digestion? Oh my God, I have intestinal hemorrhaging. My intestine. I'm like, ma'am, you are describing estrogen issues. You're describing problems with your estrogen, everything. And for miscarriages and fibromyalgia, all her body, her whole body hurts, and the inflammation she's talking about, all the things, her menstrual problems. And she's screaming estrogen. And she was about to go to the doctor to have more antibiotics stuck in a catheter because her intestines hemorrhaging, so she can't take regular antibiotics. They were going to do a surgical procedure and put a catheter in her neck so they could put the antibiotics right in her bloodstream. And everything about her symptoms are about estrogen. So estrogen is a serious issue. We get estrogen from the water we drink. We get estrogen from the fish we eat. We get estrogen from the meat and the dairy. We get estrogen in herbs. We get estrogen in drugs. We take birth control pills. We're on 8 hormone replacement therapy, and we're not clearing out estrogen. So that is a serious problem. And estrogen acts like cortisol, has a stress effect, especially superestrogen. But between elevated stress hormone and elevated estrogen, or problems eliminating estrogen, you have a second cause of hypothyroidism. So you take all the synthroid you want, but if you're dealing with estrogen issues, if you're dealing with cortisol issues, and if you got Hashimoto's, it ain't going to touch it. And because the thyroid regulates the heart, and it regulates the brain, and it regulates, in fact, every single cell in your body. It's like a key that turns on the machinery of all the cells of your body. If you're hypothyroid, you're going to have every other health challenge you can name, every single other one. In fact, there is no such thing as a chronic health challenge that does not have hypothyroidism associated with it. You don't need your thyroid checked. You can just assume it. And what's really scary and problematic is the thyroid regulates the digestive system. So when you're hypothyroid, you're going to have poor digestive functioning, which is going to lead to more hypothyroidism, which is going to lead to more digestive dysfunction. You get in a vicious downward spiral. And if they don't work on the thyroid by working on the digestive system, the autoimmune issues, and the estrogen and the cortisol, all other health issues will not, no other health issues will be able to be resolved. None of them. And what I just told you there in the last 5 minutes is the reason why we have more doctors, more devices, more drugs, more insurance, more protocols, more knowledge about the body than we've ever had in the history of mankind. And we are the sickest culture simultaneously. The most obese, the most cancer-ridden, the most diabetes, the most everything of any culture in the history of mankind, because nobody's addressing the hypothyroidism that is the cause of everything else. Because nobody's addressing the cause of the hypothyroidism, which is the digestive tract and the blood sugar system. And that's what I call the triangle of disease. And that is what is underneath everything. And the bad news is, if you don't address the triangle of disease, your heart disease, your cholesterol issues, your high blood pressure, your kidney issues, your Alzheimer's, dementia, your skin problems aren't going anywhere. And they're right. The medical people are right. You're going to have it the rest of your life. The good news is that once you work on the triangle, everything else starts to resolve. Once you work on those 3 points, the digestive system, the blood sugar system, and then I call it the adrenal thyroid complex. And that's the triangle of disease. And that's why hypothyroidism is so tricky to treat and so important to treat. And so, it's so hard to treat with medically, but it's so important to treat. And you can do it if you get to the bottom of it. It's a long-winded answer, but it's really important stuff. Can't hear you.
That also goes into the answer of questions in regards to blood pressure issues, cholesterol issues, cleaning up kidneys.
All of it.
I mean, all of it.
All of it. Yes. If you work on those 3 points, don't worry about anything else. Just work on the digestive system by laying off foods, intermittent fasting, calorie restriction, digestive support. You work on the blood sugar system by reducing your sugar intake, using your sweeties, using your ultimate niacin and your ultimate selenium, using your ultimate EFAs, and doing the ketogenic diet. And then you work on relaxing your body, calming the body down through breathing, through muscle relaxation, through psychological strategies. That's what you need. Those 3 things. There's no health challenge. None. I don't care if it's autoimmune disease you had your whole life, or psoriasis you had your whole life, or kidney disease or high blood pressure. There's no health challenge that can withstand positively manipulating those 3 points. Now, whether you're going to be cured right away, I don't know. I'm not saying that, but you will feel better and your disease markers of disease will decrease. Not because I say so, not because there's a study that says that, but because it's just biochemical logic. It's just biochemistry. There's no studies. You don't need to see a study when you understand biochemistry. And I'm not saying this like it's an assertion. It's just biochemical logic. You stop the assaults from coming into the body, you reduce the sugar intake, and you calm the body down.
So here's another question that is kind of in the line of the whole biomechanics of it all. For somebody that's been on a pharmaceutical and they get on the nutrition and they're able to cut back to the point where they no longer need the pharmaceutical, do they need to do any type of like detox to get that out of the liver?
Oh yeah, to clean out the system, absolutely. There's lots you could do. Um, Minerals, plant-derived minerals, and this is not appreciated as much as it should be, although Doc does talk about this. Plant-derived minerals are natural detoxifiers. They are natural detoxifiers. All the plant colloidal mineral products have a natural detoxifying effect. You can, if you want to do other things, vitamin C is an incredible detoxifier. Bentonite clay and also charcoal are great detoxifiers. There's lots of ways to detoxify. Breathing out, exhaling is a detoxification strategy. You blow off toxins when you exhale. So there's lots of great ways to detoxify, but I really feel like the plant-derived minerals are very underappreciated for their role in detoxification, particularly of heavy metals, by the way.
All right, thank you. And one more question, if we may. What are your thoughts on iron infusions?
You got to be really, really, really careful with iron. In fact, you just got to be careful with it. Iron is a very unstable element, and anytime an element is unstable, it's tricky. There's positive benefits to unstable elements, and iron obviously has positive benefits, but it's also very tricky and could be very have negative health effects. So I would be really, really careful about iron infusions or working with iron. I think the best way to get your iron is from foods. If you're low iron, if you're somehow low iron, it really means that you're not getting iron the right way, which is through foods, and that could very well mean a digestive health issue. So if you're eating iron foods, organ meats being probably the best iron foods for vegetarians, green leafy vegetables contain iron, although the iron in vegetables is not as it's not as bioavailable as the iron in animal products. So really organ meats are the best way. But if you're eating lots of foods that contain iron, but you're still low iron, there's a problem. And that problem is probably in how you're processing iron out of those foods. And that could very well mean that you have a stomach acid issue or stomach enzyme issue. There could be some digestive health issues that need to be addressed. I would be very careful about an iron infusion. Much prefer eating iron and then helping the body extract the iron from the food.
Okay, well, we are out of time. That was a lot.
Well, thank you, everybody. And thank you, Rebecca. You are so awesome, Rebecca. I wish everybody could give you a big hand. I don't know if they're out there or they can do that, but you deserve a huge hand for what you're doing. You're amazing, amazing. And I wanted you to share how you're doing your business, because it's just awe-inspiring how you're doing it. It really is, Rebecca Dukes. How you got the mojo. You're a rock star.
Well, okay, so here's something that really has made a difference.
Yeah.
I had people like Pharmacist Ben as resources who empowered me to be able to share my story. Just gave me whenever you feed into somebody those positive emotions, that helps them want to do better, want to do more. And so I feel very blessed that I'm using my health crisis to now help others.
Yeah.
Because of the transformation that I have gone through.
Awesome. And you're helping people with their business too. I mean, you're a great business leader. I'm so lucky to have you on my team.
Well, I'm very blessed, and we're all blessed because we are a big family.
Yes, we are a big family, and I love that. And so next week, let's talk about next month, let's talk about estrogen.
Well, next week I think is next month. So how about it?
Oh, okay. Okay, you're right. It is. So in about 3 weeks.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining us here on Q&A with Pharmacist Ben Fuchs and myself, Becca Dukes. And we will try to get more information up, or information about our next call up, sooner than a couple days, so that you can plan for it and you can, most importantly, invite people. I don't know anyone that did not get some type of information or value from this call. Is there anybody? Raise your hand if you got no value from this call.
Say that. There's all these questions. Pranayama is great, you guys. Somebody asked about pranayama. That's kind of what we're talking about here. Pranayama is a breathing technique. All right.
Well, I'm glad you caught that because I didn't know how to pronounce it. So I just kind of skipped over it. So I'm sorry.
All
And
right.
and we kind of touched on the blood pressure things, and we touched on things about the statins. So we covered a lot of ground today. Again, the replay, you can go to Critical Health News. You'll find the replay of this probably by Monday. So for those of you who are watching, and share. We want you to make sure that you have information that is a resource that you can share with others. So folks, if you are watching this program and somebody shared this with you, get back with them if you have questions. All right,
All
get
right,
back with
guys.
them.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much for being
thank you, Ben. And I
here.
want
Bye,
to thank
everybody.
my co-hosts, Ruth Ellen Sanchez and Heather Bowen, for all the information that they put in the chat here and responses. And if I missed something, they sent me a screenshot of it. So it's all about teamwork, folks. Find like-minded people, build yourself a team, and soar together. So bye for now.
Bye.